Right, so let's begin with Express. And Express, it's by far the most popular module to help us create a server. First, we're gonna need to install Express because it's not from Node, it's just a third-party library. So we're gonna use the same project for now. Of course, this is gonna go to you, but right here we are using a server that is gonna be called, it's just for the simple one. So I'm gonna rename this. I'm gonna rename this one, and this one is gonna be basic. Then we're going to create a different file for the Express server. Now, since we need to install a dependency, we're going to need our package.json, and we're going to need to install it with npm. So again, we need to do the npm init to create a package.json. So I'm going to go right here to the terminal, and I'm going to do npm just like this, and then init. And of course, it's going to ask me a bunch of things. I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to keep pressing enter, enter, and enter. Then it's going to ask you if it's okay. We're going to say yes. That's cool. And then I'm going to do clear. Okay. So right here, we're going to have our package.json. That's good. So now we need to install Express. So let me go to the, let me close this. We're going to go to the browser, and I'm going to say npm express, just like this. So right here, you're going to have the Express side inside npm. And you're going to have, of course, all the documentation. It's a pretty long documentation. And right here, we have the version 4.16.2. We're going to install that one. So we're going to say npm install express, and we're going to say version 4.16.2, and then minus save. It's going to take a few seconds. I'm going to press enter, pause the video, and be right back. Okay, so everything was installed, and this time I'm not going to restart the server manually every time I make a change. I'm going to do nodemon just like this, and then of course we're going to run nodemon with whatever file. Right here we have the server underscore basic. This is what we've been doing with the create server, but I'm going to do it with something else. I'm going to create a new file, and this one is going to be called server and then express and then .js. We're going to be running that one. So I'm going to go right here and say server underscore express.js. I'm going to press enter, and everything is good. It's watching for the changes in this file. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to close server basic. So now what we need to do, we're going to need to start the server with Express. So since we are using Express, we need to require it. So I'm going to say const express is going to be equal to require and then express. Good. Okay, that's good. Now, by convention, what we do whenever we create a server with Express, we created a variable that is going to be called app. And most of the times, it's called app. And then inside this Express, right here, this library, we have the Express that creates a server, and that is it. Okay, it's really simple. And then, just like the create server, we need to pass the listen and the port we want to use. So we make a reference to app because we created an Express instance inside app, and then we pass the listen and the port. And again, by convention, it's 3000. And that is it. And that is really it. So I'm going to save it. And of course, right here, it's going to fail. It requires is not defined because I made a mistake. It's require. There we go. So now it's restarting, and everything should be okay. That's good. So now, just like it creates server, what happens if the user wants to go to home or go to car, go to API or whatever? So what we need to do, we need to set the HTTP methods that it should be listening. Now, maybe in the past, if you're a developer, in the past you use jQuery, and with jQuery, when you make an AJAX request just like this, you specify the URL with whatever URL, and then you pass the method just like this. And in this case, if you want to get that data, you said get, and if you want to post, you put post or delete or whatever. Well, this is the same idea. You need to specify what you want to do. In this case, I just want to get all the get requests from home. So we say app, we make a reference to that variable, and then we say get, just like this. Real simple. Now this get is gonna take two arguments. First one is gonna be the location. We want to listen for requests from home. So the first one is going to be the path, the location. So we say home. The second one is going to be the callback, the thing that we're going to do after we get a request. So we pass function. Now this function, just like the create server, receives a request and a response. That's good. So what I want to do, I want to send some HTML. So it's really simple. I'm going to say response dot send open and close. And right here we pass a variable with the HTML or whatever. I'm going to put the HTML right here. HTML, open and close. Then body, open and close. And right here, hello dudes, whatever. Okay, so this one is going to be sending a response. I'm going to save the file. It's going to start the server, going to reload the page, and we get hello dudes. That's really simple. And maybe you noticed, maybe, just maybe, that there is no headers. There's no need to put the headers, you know? How is this working? How Express knows that we are sending HTML? Because this is not just text, it's HTML. If I add a tag like style, just like this, style, and then background of red, and save it, make the request, we get the HTML. So it's actual HTML. Now Express already knows what you're doing. It's gonna check whatever is that you're sending, and it's gonna say, oh, okay, so the dude is trying to send HTML, so I'm gonna set the headers for HTML. So that's good. It's really, really good. What happens if you want to send some JSON? Okay, so let's see it. I'm gonna create an instance of app. I'm gonna do get, open and close. And then I'm going to say whenever I receive an API and then user, I'm going to send a JSON response. So we set the callback with, of course, request and response. I told you I was going to use these words a lot. And then we say res for response and then send, open and close. And in this case, we're going to send some JSON data, but of course we need to pass an object. So I'm going to say name is going to be Francis. And we're going to do this same example than before. It's going to be an array with, I believe it was Ford, and the second one was Nissan, just something like this. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to go to /API, and then not Francis. Oh, there was a different example. It's API and then user. And if we press enter, we get Francis and the cars. So again, this is why Express, it's so popular. It's it's really, really simple to use. This is why everyone uses. Of course, we have more methods. We're going to be doing this. We're going to do post requests and everything else in a minute. But for now, this is pretty much done. What we need to do right now, I'm going to give you a tip on this. If you check for examples of Express on the web, you're going to see this app listing on a different way. You're going to find something like this. Let me do it first, and then I will explain you. You're going to see process, something like this, then .env, .port in caps, and then you're going to see the OR logical operator, and then you're going to have 3000 or whatever. And right here, instead of the number, you have the port. Now, if you think about it, this kind of makes sense. We are working right now on the development server. We are running this in our computer because we are just creating this. We are working with this. So we are always going to run on the 3000, on the port 3000. But whenever you push this to production, your environment is not going to be development. It's not your computer. It's going to be a server, for example, Heroku. So for that, you're going to need to set a different port, and that port, it's not something that you can decide. The Heroku is going to do that. So this process is kind of the global object we discussed previously inside Node. We are accessing something called process that has a key called environment, and we are setting a port. So whenever you push this to production, Heroku is going to check this to start the server. And it's going to find this variable. It's going to say, oh, okay, if I get this variable, if I have it, which they will because they are Heroku, I'm going to use this one. If not, we're going to use this one, okay? And this, of course, they always going to use this one. This one is for us, for your computer. And it kind of makes sense. What are you going to do? Whenever you push this application, your project, to production, you're going to be changing the port manually. Not a good idea. Okay, that's good. So let's see how to use params. Right, let's see how to use params. So maybe someone makes a request and they need to bring some user data, for example. So our API is going to be listening for /API/user/ and the ID of the user, just like we did previously with the routing inside React Router. Well, this is the same idea. I'm going to go right here at the bottom. I'm going to create a new route for this. It's going to be app, and then we're going to be listening for a GET request. Then it's going to be /API/user ID/ and to pass to your Express that we're going to be listening for an ID or for something that it's dynamic. We're going to say colon, just like React, and then ID. And then of course we're going to be running our function with a request and a response. Request, response. And right here we could do whatever you want. Everything is going to be inside the actual request. You know, whenever this application starts and receives a request inside of this path, inside the request, this variable, this argument, we have all the information available. So I'm going to go right here at the bottom and I'm going to say let ID equals to, we access request because it's an object. Remember, we are working with JavaScript, and then params dot, and then we're going to be requesting for the ID, which is this one. If you put this monkey right here, monkey, this one of course needs to be monkey, right? Okay, but you know, let's use ID. Makes a little bit more sense. So right now, what we could do whenever we receive a request for an ID, we're going to send an HTML response. Again, we're going to do HTML, open and close. Then we're going to set a body, and inside the body, I'm going to be saying the user ID is, and whatever is that we get inside the ID variable, like this. So I'm going to save it, and instead of user, I'm going to make a request for 5001. And we get the user ID is 5001. So this is working. It was really simple. Now you could use this to whatever you want. What happens if this one it's dynamic? So what you could do, you can do colon to this one as well. And right now I can pass the username. For example, let's username, just like this, and we're going to be accessing request dot params dot and then user. And now what we can do, we can pass the username just like this, which is what's going to be Francis, of course. And if I reload it, it's still working. I can put it right here. The user ID is ID, and the name is, and we pass user. Gonna save it, reload it, and user is not defined. It's because it's username. Sorry guys, my bad. Talking and typing not that easy. So it's the user ID and the name is Francis. Right, so that works. It's really, really simple. Okay, that's good. So sometimes, not all times, let me close this. You're gonna get some paths with query strings. If you don't know what query strings, I'm pretty sure you've seen it. It's gonna be at the end of the path with the question mark, and then you have kind of a key value pair. You're gonna have the model, which is gonna be, I don't know, the name, model, and it's going to be equal to, you know, Ford, and then you're going to have an ampersand, and I don't know, the year, for example, of the car, which is going to be 2018, whatever. So sometimes you're going to get URLs just like this. Now, to catch them, they are kind of not in the request. We need to use something else to catch them, because you're going to get them, but in a different way. So at the top, we're going to need to do this. I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to do const. I'm going to say query string. And of course, we need to require it. I'm going to say require, open and close. And this is something that, of course, comes with Node. So we say query string, just like this. I was testing it. That's why it was there. Didn't delete it. So I'm going to go right here at the bottom, and we're going to pretty much do the same thing with the get request. I'm going to do app, then get, open and close. We're going to be listening for /API / car. Good, makes sense? And then of course we use the function and we pass the request and the response. Request and then response. So now how do we get the queries? So we're going to say let. I'm going to create one that is going to be brand, just like this. It's going to be equal to request.query.brand. And we're going to be getting the brand. Let's do the year. I'm going to say year is going to be equal to request.query.year. And that's it. Then of course we need to send the response. So I'm going to send just the JSON back, some JSON data. I'm going to pass the object. And since we are using ES6, we can do brand and year. And that is it. Okay, let me make this a little bit better. There we go. Okay, let's make that request. It's going to be API and then car. And of course, oh, what happened? It's going to be API, then car. It's going to be, and I have the variable right here. It's brand Ford and the year is 2017. So we get the actual object with the data. Good. That is good. Right, so I wanted to add one more thing. Of course, you have a documentation for this because there are a lot of ways to use params. I'm going to go to Express and then JS and then guide and then routing. In this case, it's going to be routing. You can go to the guide and check the guide. But in this case, it's going to be routing. So we're going to go to Express routing. And here you get a lot of examples. So feel free to read them all, but most likely you're going to use this one. So right, this one and then the query string. So again, feel free to check the documentation. Okay, so on the next section, we're going to be talking about middlewares. Middlewares are really, really important. So do not skip the next video because again, you're going to use middlewares the whole time. Okay, so let's go to the next section and start with middlewares.